Tonight, a clip of Emily Blunt in a 2012 interview is going viral, but for all the wrong reasons. The clip of the Oppenheimer actress is getting a lot of attention, with many on social media saying the actress was fat-shaming. Blunt has apologized, saying, "I am appalled that I would say something so insensitive, hurtful, and unrelated to whatever story I was trying to tell on a talk show. Whatever possessed me to say anything like this in that moment is unrecognizable to me or anything I stand for." And then there's Dave Chappelle. He did a show in Boston over the weekend when he made some comments on the Israel-Hamas war that caused some in the audience to walk out. Chappelle criticized Hamas for the initial attack. He also called Israel's actions in Gaza war crimes. Let's bring in celebrity and lifestyle expert Josh McBride now to discuss all of this. Josh, thanks for joining me today.
Good evening, Shayna.
So let's start with Dave Chappelle. No stranger to controversy. In fact, it seems you almost expect if you're going to a Dave Chappelle show, he might say something that many would deem offensive. Do you think this situation may play out any differently than some of his past controversies?
Shayna, I think it's a really interesting question. Excuse me. I think it's an interesting question because we know by going to any comedy show that there might be issues that that comic may touch on that maybe you're sensitive at, or maybe someone else is sensitive towards. We know that a lot of comedians, including Dave Chappelle specifically, will make jokes about newsworthy topics, right? This gets them press, this gets them laughs, this gets them controversial, but keeps them in the news. Was this the right thing to say or touch on? My short answer is no. The long answer really pertains to whether or not you are a fan of Dave Chappelle's. You kind of go into a Dave Chappelle show knowing what's going to happen. We know, Shayna, last year, 2021, can't keep up with the years, that he had made jokes at the expense of transgender people. And then the Netflix employees had led to a full walkout. He is not new to this sort of judgmental comedy in a way that can hurt some.
Yeah, what do you make of his response? Because in some cases, with certain celebrities, we see an immediate apologetic. There's absolutely maybe a backtracking, at the very least an apology. And Dave Chappelle seems to take a different route. And so far, he hasn't lost his career. What do you make of his response or the way he has responded in the past?
Shayna, this response was the weirdest response I've ever heard. There actually wasn't a response. What we do know right now is a spokesperson for Chappelle, I believe, told the Wall Street Journal and other outlets that he denies even being in Boston this weekend. Now, we know, according to a TD Garden spokesperson, that, of course, he was there and confirmed that both shows were held in Boston. But I thought it was a weird route to take of like, oh, never mind, I wasn't there, just kidding, even though he really was.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's just trolling everyone at this point. Let's move on to Emily Blunt. What do you make of this whole situation? So this is different. When you first start to see it on social media, it almost implies she was caught saying something that maybe she didn't think people would hear, but this was not that. She was on a talk show. It was years ago, but not that long ago. What do you make of her response to this situation?
I mean, agree to disagree a little bit there. I think long enough ago that I believe it was 11 years ago, September of, oh gosh, my math is wrong today, but it was about 11 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, I believe it was 2012.
There you go. The reality is are any of us, would any of us who weren't in the limelight, weren't in the public, I'm sure all of us have said something off the cuff that probably wasn't very nice at some point in our lives. I don't know anybody that's perfect other than my mom, who considers herself perfect. But I think at the end of the day that this was a slip up. I think this was, she was trying to be maybe funny in the moment at the expense, again, of somebody else. I didn't see much validity to this. I love that she said, I want to address it head on, and said that, you know what, like this, I'm sad seeing this of myself. But at the end of the day, like we all make mistakes. We all know, like this happened 11 years ago. I think we can forgive her and move on. She hasn't really been that controversial in recent years or since the beginning of her career. I think we can let this one go.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen certain things, certain statements, photos with other celebrities that have been unearthed from decades ago, and it seems it depends on the crime or the offending statement. There are certain things that have a different sort of statute of limitations, right?
Absolutely. I think if there was a number of issues that we had seen with Emily Blunt of her being disrespectful towards other people, we can probably have a longer and probably more thoughtful and kind of engaging, larger conversation. But I think, she wanted to catch this in advance. She said her jaw was on the floor when she watched it. I'm sure the woman probably goes through at least 300 interviews a year. So if you add that up, we're talking over 3,000 interviews since this one. And I'm talking about you're on a red carpet and you're hitting multiple outlets. You're going to junkets. This was a slip up. She was trying to be funny in the moment. I think we can forgive her and move on from this one.
Yeah. So we have seen at this point countless celebrities in various degrees of cancellation for various degrees of offenses. Do you think the whole cancel culture concept is changing? Is it evolving over the years? Because it feels like the response now is different than it might have been a few years ago.
I think it's really dependent. I'm sort of in the middle and a hard person to ask here because it's not a yes or no question. It's kind of it's not an and question. It's not an or question either. It's really an and question of, it really depends on the crime, right? It depends on the severity of the situation. I don't think we need to cancel Emily Blunt for a one-off comment she made 11 years ago. Now, if you want to talk about somebody else who's consistently making disrespectful remarks and offending different, one community or a bunch of communities, I think that then there's a larger conversation there of like, you know what, maybe we don't need this person around, and maybe that's okay to cancel the person. But in the case of Emily Blunt specifically, because I know that that's what we're referring to also, I think we can let this go. We don't need to cancel her for an inappropriate one-time comment. I'm sure all of the viewers have made a comment at some point, whether it's been to a close friend or family member, or even to someone directly to their face. None of us are perfect. I think we can pass on this one. But cancel culture as a whole, I don't necessarily agree with, but I think it really depends on the crime, so to speak.
Absolutely. Celebrity and lifestyle expert Josh McBride, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.